Hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to a live Manchester United news, transfer news, and update show. Saudi have given a 300 million offer to Bruno Fernandes, 100 million to Manchester United, 200 million to Bruno Fernandes, and he has to make a decision this week. Bruno has to respond to Saudi, and some sources suggest he's already responded. Al Hilal's offer is strong. Manchester United want to keep Bruno. It's not going to be easy, but some reports have said that Bruno is now waiting for a new offer and the player is open to joining. Reports coming out that Chelsea pass on Jadon Sancho transfer as well, but the same report suggests interest from Bayer Leverkusen, who is going to be managed by Ten Hag next season, which, Anyway, Man United players get nasty turning on Ruben Amorim. Manchester United plan to sign 3 forwards, 2 10s and 1 striker. We've actually just been linked to João Pedro, but he has a bit of an injury record. Manchester United's plan for next season is to get players out that they think are not 100% committed to the club while they remain in the race for players like Victor Gyökeres and more. Cunha deal could be done as early as Sunday. Garnacho and Amorim's relationship is over and more. So, hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to your live daily Manchester United news, transfer news, and update show where we're going to discuss all the Manchester United news today that's going about in this live show. And we're probably going to start with Bruno Fernandes talk. We'll get into Sancho, we'll get into Garnacho, we'll get into the leaks, we'll get into all of the information coming out. But I hope all of you guys are having a good day. It's bank holiday weekend over in the UK now, so hope you've got lots of good plans. Hopefully the weather will be nice. But it's time to talk about Manchester United. Is Cunha still on? Yeah, it's still on. Don't worry, we'll talk about that. No word from Ineos. We need action. Yeah, 100%. Big up Gaz, 111k. Big up everybody as well. Yeah, we'll have a discussion about Amorim as well later on, but let's discuss this. So this is essentially what's come out from Chris Wheeler, some of the points he was essentially making. Bruno has until the end of May to decide on a 200 million move to Al Hilal. Saudi club is increasingly hopeful of convincing him to leave, so Saudi feel that Bruno's going to say yes to them, essentially. Despite being happy at United, factors of pushing Bruno out is no European football, 25% wage cut, uncertainty over United's short-term progress under Amorim. Al Hilal prepared to offer 100 million as a transfer fee. We also know in Bruno's interview, he said, Amorim, I think, will be successful with me or not. He said, if the club need to sell me for financial reasons, I'll go. He loves Manchester United, and if Man United want to go for financial reasons, he will go. But he also wants to win trophies. Now, he said it's not about money, it's about trophies. And interestingly, Bayern Munich do now have some interest in Bruno Fernandes, which could make it more complicated because Bruno Fernandes would go to Bayern Munich. But will Bayern Munich offer Manchester United what Saudi are offering Manchester United? That's the big question. So there's a lot of updates on Bruno. Now, Sam C, who formerly worked with the United stand, good source of information, added to this. And he said that Al Hilal have made a strong offer for Bruno. What Chris Wheeler said is true. And a decision is expected soon, again, like Chris Wheeler said. But Sam C did mention that Bruno loves Man United, but he's just unhappy with the club and the atmosphere. And can you blame him? Can you blame Bruno for being unhappy with the club and atmosphere? Bruno's out there taking out the staff that Ineos have made redundant for lunch and dinner. Bruno's out there treating the staff and people at Manchester United. Bruno's out there making sure the women's team's family can get FA Cup final tickets to watch them in the FA Cup final. I'm not just talking about Man United being crap on the pitch. Bruno is fed up of having to do this for the women's team, having to do this for the staff, because those at the top of the club are a complete failure. Bruno and Tom Heaton are the reason the women's team could bring their family to the FA Cup final. Bruno and Tom Heaton are offering to pay for staff to do this, and Ineos are saying no because it'll make them look bad. Bruno Fernandes, hey? Bruno Fernandes. Sam C also mentioned that Bruno is considering a big payday while he's in his prime, but it's not going to be easy for Al Hilal to convince him. What's said on Bruno. But more interestingly, we've also now got interest from Bayern Munich. Now, Bruno wants trophies more than money. Bruno wants success more than money. He loves Manchester United, but he's 31. He's only got 3 or 4. I think Bruno will go to he's 35. I think he'll be like Modric, but he wants trophies. Team Talk said this. Bayern Munich are considering a move for Bruno Fernandes. Bayern are keen to hold talks with the Red Devils after missing out on Vert, although the transfer fee Manchester United would want may prove as a stumbling block. Bruno would go to Bayern Munich. Bruno would absolutely go to Bayern Munich. We don't know if he'll go to Saudi, but we know he'd go to Bayern Munich. The problem is, Man United will want over £100 million. Will Bayern Munich be willing to pay over £100 million for someone that's 30? That is the big question, which maybe leaves Bruno with Saudi as his only option. I think Bruno is gone, need more than 100 million. If I'm United, the least I would accept is 120 million. But I would want 150 million because Bruno might not be worth 150 million with his age, but Bruno Fernandes is worth 150 million to Manchester United. You've got to remember, how much is he worth to Manchester United? And I think he's easily worth 150 million to Manchester United. Bayern Munich paid 100 million for Kane in that position. Why not Bruno in that position? True. Kane, similar age, yeah, 100%. They missed out on Florian Wirtz to Liverpool. They need a player like Bruno Fernandes. I don't blame Bruno if he leaves this rotten club. Yeah, I mean, Team Talk is a tier 5,000 source. It's not the best. It's not the best source, Team Talk, but there was reports a couple of months ago from more credible sources like Bayern monitoring Bruno. Bayern won't buy Bruno without a wage cut. They'll probably go for Eze, maybe, but I think they want more of a natural 10 rather than a wide 10, a central 10, a captain, a leader. Thomas Muller's gone. Don't fault Bruno at all if he leaves. Basically a waste of a year for him next season. Basically is. We need proper action, not inept destabilising actions which seem the Ineos way. Yeah, I mean, the way that Ineos have run this club, I know they have to make unpopular decisions. But it's just the way the staff have been treated, the women's team has been treated, is appalling. And Bruno Fernandes has stood up for that, and he's frustrated with that. It's not just Man United crap. It's not just the toxic environment with the players and the players turning on Amorim, but there's a lot of other factors that have made Bruno Fernandes potentially fed up. There's a lot of things. He's having to help with this. He's having to help with that. He's having to do this. He's having to do that. Because the ownership won't step up. The ownership, it's ridiculous. I feel for Bruno. Let's get into some more news on Bruno Fernandes then. So this was the source, and I spoke about this yesterday, that broke the Florian Wirtz story. So obviously yesterday, Sasha came out and said that Florian Wirtz had chosen Liverpool. And everyone was like freaking out for 20 minutes, like what? All the Liverpool fans were saying this better be true. Are you lying? Everyone was freaking out. Then about 20 minutes later, David Ornstein then confirmed what this guy said in regards to Florian Wirtz. He said on the same day that Bruno is open to Al Hilal. He's basically said Bruno is open to the move. He said Bruno's representatives have told Al Hilal he is waiting for an approved offer. He's open to join before the Club World Cup. And sources say the gap between the current offer and his expectations is small, and negotiations could progress quickly if Al Hilal raise their bid. So he's basically suggesting that Bruno, is pretty much open to go to Saudi. And he was the guy that confirmed that Wirtz chose Liverpool before Ornstein, before Romano. So that worries me, because Bruno's got a decision to make, but we have a good source of information that's had a very good week with the Florian Wirtz exclusive, saying that Bruno is basically happy to go to Saudi if they improve the offer. Bruno's waiting for Saudi to match his offer. He's open to joining. He's suggesting that Bruno Fernandes is responded to Saudi saying, you give me this, and there we go. I want this from Saudi. He's basically suggesting Bruno's made his decision. He's not saying that Bruno has said yes to Saudi or Bruno has agreed to join Saudi, but he is saying, look, Bruno Fernandes reps have told Al Hilal he's waiting for an approved offer and that he's open to joining. That's pretty clear about his future. I think he's gone. I think Bruno Fernandes is gone. Apparently there could be a big decision today, but I think he's gone. But I think people don't realise why he's worth £150 million to Man United. It's not just what he offers on the pitch, it's what he offers off the pitch. How do people hate Bruno? He's constantly stepping up where the club ownership falls short. Offered to cover staff, travel and accommodation for the FA Cup final when the club wouldn't. When Man United's women got a tiny ticket allocation for the FA Cup final, Bruno and Tom Heaton stepped in. They made sure the tickets were covered using dressing room fine money. Club wouldn't fund it. Bruno made it happen anyway. Even though Bruno complained about not funding this and that, the club tried to stop Bruno funding it because it would make them look bad. Took staff out like the former press officer out for lunch. Keeps in touch with laid off employees like the kit man. Checks in with loanies and former colleagues unprompted. Bruno Fernandes, people might not like him, but he's worth 150 million to Manchester United because It's not just what he offers on the pitch, it's what he offers off the pitch. And he's fed up with the club. He's absolutely fed up with the club, the way it's run, the Glazers, the Ineos. He wants to win. He wants Manchester United to win trophies, but he wants to win trophies. And it's not like he's 25 and he can wait another rebuild. He's going to be 31. He's given his all for the club. You know, Garnacho, look, I understand why Garnacho was frustrated after the match, but Garnacho shouldn't have said what he said post-match. But if Bruno had said what Garnacho had said post-match, we would have all been behind Bruno, because Bruno probably is in a position where he's been done the most by the club. You know, he's been done the most. Open heart surgery, we'd done that and it got even worse. We need a successful open heart surgery because the last one failed. That's what we need. Get Bruno gone. We have loads of money to invest. Bruno's done a lot for the club, but his time is up. I wouldn't get Bruno gone unless we're talking 125 million at the lowest. I would want 150 million because of what he's worth to United. Florian Wirtz and Liverpool have reached an agreement on personal terms. I just feel like it gets worse. I'm not trying to be negative about Liam Delap, but we're about to get relegated and we'll get Delap. And Liverpool have won the league and they get Florian Wirtz. Like, does anyone else just look at that and think? Like, I'm not trying to be negative, but it is depressing. Like, I can't lie. Like, yeah, I like Delap, but the Florian Wirtz, and there's a difference between Florian Wirtz and Delap. Yeah. The only thing I would say about Wirtz is it's going to cost Liverpool a lot of money, and that could affect their other transfer plans. So apparently Bruno Fernandes has been offered 77 million euros per year from Al Hilal, which bonuses could take it up even higher. I don't think Bruno rejects it. Yeah. Bruno's been here since January 2020, 5 years, 2 trophies. Should have been 3. How Bruno Fernandes has not won the Europa League is beyond me. And look, he didn't have a good performance in the Europa League final, but he's the reason we got there. It was fantastic in the FA Cup final. I think Bruno should have played as a 10 instead of Mount in the Europa League final. Yeah, we got that wrong. I think if Bruno played higher up, we could have maybe won. That's the problem. Proper PL clubs get better and better, and at best we gradually improve. That's the problem. Do you know what annoys me? Is if we're in La Liga, or if we're in Serie A, or if we're in Ligue 1, we probably finish 6th or 7th. Yeah. But because we're in the Premier League, and Bournemouth are smart, Villa are smart, Newcastle are smart, Brighton are smart, Brentford are smart, incredibly well-run clubs that invest their money well, with top-of-the-range scouting, data, all of that, we're 17th. Because the clubs above us are financially strong. The clubs above us are run by better people. And, you know, we might have a lot of money because we can actually make the most money because we're still the biggest club in the country. But we can't compete because we've got idiots making decisions compared to all these other clubs in the Premier League. And we're falling behind because Aston Villa have more ambition than us. Newcastle United have more ambition and more brains than us. Liverpool have more ambition than us. Arsenal have more ambition than us. Chelsea have more ambition than us, and they don't have great owners. Man City have the most ambition out of anybody in the league, but they are kind of cheats. Nottingham Forest have more ambition than us, going for Cunha in January. Well, we'd sold Rashford. Well, we'd loaned out Rashford and Anthony. We didn't bother going for anyone in January, even though we needed January investment. Forest were trying to get Cunha to be even stronger. It's, you know, how we're falling behind. It worries me. And we need to spend a lot of money. And we need to spend, it's not just spending money, it's spending it smart. So let's talk about money, because we need Sancho gone, we need Anthony gone, we need Rashford gone to raise the funds. But there's now reports coming out that Chelsea have made a decision. Chelsea have made a decision to pass on Jadon Sancho. Chelsea passed on Jadon Sancho transfer, but Bayer Leverkusen are interested in the Manchester United forward. So I was on the One Football app today, and I saw that report, and I gave it a read, and they're quoting sort of what's come out from the Independent, I believe. And they were basically saying that Chelsea have made a decision on Sancho, they want to send him back to United. Chelsea have decided not to sign Sancho permanently after his loan spell. The club will pay the 5 million penalty for not fulfilling their obligation to buy, and that Bayer Leverkusen are now showing interest in offering Sancho a fresh start. Could be a change for Sancho to revive his career back in Germany. The big question I have is, I don't know if that second part's true, because why would Ten Hag want Jadon Sancho at Bayer Leverkusen? Why Ten Hag's getting the Bayer Leverkusen job, so why would he want Sancho? So I was like, okay, the Independent is normally a decent source of information, and they're saying exclusively that Chelsea have already made a decision, they're not sending back Sancho. They've decided that. But then they say that Bayer Leverkusen are interested. So that sort of made me go from believing the report to going, well, surely not. because Ten Hag's at Bayer Leverkusen. So he's not going to want to go. Does Ten Hag want him? Surely not. So I'm not sure about that. But I wouldn't be surprised if Chelsea sent Sancho back. I think Sancho's got better. And I think he's done more than Madueke this season. And I think Chelsea for 25 million, they might say, look, there's a decent player there. We can always sell him on if it doesn't work out. Sancho wants to stay at Chelsea. Maybe Chelsea do. But I'm not going to be shocked in the slightest. I'm not going to be shocked in the slightest if Jadon Sancho gets sent back. We get 5 million for it, and if we can sell him to 25 million elsewhere, we technically sell him for 30 million. I guess that's the positive, rather than selling him for 25 million to a rival. But yeah, that's going to be a problem. Because Sancho's not got the attitude to play under Ruben Amorim. He suits Amorim's system probably more than he suits Maresca's system, but he doesn't have the attitude to play under Ruben Amorim. De Ligt making captain, someone else deserves a chance. If Bruno went, who's your captain? Let's be honest, if Bruno went, who is your captain? You maybe go Casemiro, but he's probably going to go. Going through the Manchester United squad, I don't think you give captaincy back to Maguire. Manchester United squad is probably De Ligt. I don't think there's anybody I would give captaincy to if Bruno left other than De Ligt. I don't think. I mean, Mazraoui, probably not. Leacher, if he could stay fit. Leacher's a captain. Lisandro Martinez is a captain. But he's not fit. Not Dorgu, Euro in the future, maybe. I mean, yeah, if Bruno went, you'd probably give it to De Ligt or Casemiro. I think Leacher would be a captain if he could stay fit. Trust Amorim to give Mason Mount captaincy. Amorim would probably give it to Mason Mount, wouldn't he? Yeah. I don't know, Xerxes, a bit early. I think Xerxes cares about this club more than most of the players, but I don't think we could say he's going to make Xerxes captain. Someone said, do you think Ruben threw the final to force these tough decisions, make his squad manageable, clear the deadwood? No, I think Ruben wanted to win that final because he wanted the financial capabilities in the transfer market from the final. A lot of you are saying you give it to De Ligt. Yeah. Ahmad, I don't know if Ahmad's a captain. Like, he's the most likeable player in the squad, but I think it's a bit early to give him captaincy. Anana. The thing is, if Onana wasn't so shy, I think he'd be a good captain. Like, I actually think mentality-wise, Onana's got one of the best mentalities in the squad, and people might laugh at me for saying that. But when we lose and when Onana makes a mistake, he always comes out and owns it. Onana always comes out and said, I was bad, he owns it when we lose. Like, he always owns it. Whereas Maguire would make a mistake, and when he was captain, he would still just blame other people. Whereas Onana sort of owns it. So I feel like if Onana wasn't shy, he'd be a good captain, but he's shy. Do you know what I mean? De Ligt strangely gets a lot of unfair pelters, especially from certain ex-players. Do you know what? Patrice Evra is one of the only ex-players that actually cares about this club. I'm telling you this now. Because, a lot of them ex-players, they're all chummy with the Glazers. After we lost the Europa League, Paul Scholes and Rio Ferdinand were all being chummy with the Glazers, shaking the Glazers' hands. Paul Scholes and Rio Ferdinand with the Glazers, with all of that, being all chummy. We just lost the Europa League final. And you're telling me Paul Scholes and Rio Ferdinand having a laugh with the Glazers and shaking their hand. They don't care about the club. A lot of our ex-players, they'll go on De Ligt. They go on this player, they go on that player. I tell you this now, David Beckham cares about the club. Patrice Evra cares about the club. The rest of them only care about being chummy with the Glazers so they can get access to this and access to that and furthering their careers. I tell you this now, a lot of our ex-players, I don't think give a crap about Man United because the way they talk about Man United players compared to players of other clubs is a disgrace. It's a disgrace. A lot of them are just there. Yeah. Best position for captain is midfield. Casemiro, but he's probably going to go. De Ligt is probably the most captain material. Yeah. You sold your captain to Napoli. McTominay was captain material. This is what McTominay, I think, needed to go. But if you sell McTominay, you need to sign a number 8. And we signed a number 6 for Ugarte. So that was a profiling issue. McTominay, when he played as a 6 under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I could not wait to get rid of him. McTominay as a 6 was atrocious. McTominay, when he started to play as an 8, when Ten Hag started to play him further forward as a box-crashing midfielder, okay, I started to like McTominay. And I was like, you know what? If we sell McTominay and we can get another midfielder in, that's fine. But we sell McTominay and get Agati, which is a completely different type of midfielder. So look, McTominay's done well. I'm happy for McTominay. I mean, United were fine to sell him. I did say he's £40 million player when we're getting done by Napoli, but I think he had 1 year left on his contract. I did say we could get 10 million more for him. But we didn't. When we lost McTominay, we didn't think of the goals we were going to lose. Because if McTominay was going to play as a 6, I'm all for selling him. But if you were going to play McTominay as a 10, keep him. Like that was my thing with McTominay. I liked him as a box-crashing advanced midfielder. I could not stand him as a number 6. And Napoli have gone, this is a box-crashing advanced midfielder, and built their team around him, and he's a good player. And McTominay is an example of profiling. You know, profiling is key. Ruben Amorim doesn't know how to profile Kobbie Mainoo. That's facts. You know, profiling is key. Napoli knew how to profile McTominay. Betis knew how to profile Anthony. We've got to know how to profile the players that we bring in to get the best out of them. That's why they succeed elsewhere. Plus, nicer environment, less pressure, of course. Ronaldo told the truth, he did. Sir Alex also his hands. But Sir Alex is just an old man. He's not someone that's coming out speaking about the club. He's not got that media voice. McSauce's second striker. Yeah, he's basically more of a 10. I think McTominay as a 10 in Amorim's system would have worked well. I tell you this now, if McTominay had stayed at Man United, he'd have started striker over Højlund in the final. If McTominay had stayed at Man United, he would have played striker in that final. There's no doubt about it. He would be playing striker. You know how Mourinho was playing striker for Arsenal? He'd be playing striker over Højlund, 100%. No issue with selling Scott. Problem is, for years and years, we don't replace properly. That's the problem. This is why I don't want to sell Garnacho. And people say, what do you mean you don't want to sell Garnacho? Because whether you like Garnacho or not, losing Garnacho and Rashford in one window is losing the only 2 players in the Manchester United squad with electric pace that take people on. Ahmad is more like Ahmad takes people on and he's got a bit of pace and makes things happen, but he's not like running behind dangerous like Garnacho and Rashford can be. He does like whether you like Garnacho or not, and Garnacho frustrates me more than anybody in the squad. Garnacho gets in the most dangerous positions, and yes, he misses a lot of big chances, but he's getting in dangerous positions all the time. And if you sell Garnacho and you sell Rashford, you're getting rid of the 2 players that are going to constantly get in dangerous positions and make dangerous runs. And yes, so you need to make sure that you bring in another dangerous player. Somebody replace. Cunha it could do that, but he's not got that danger. We want somebody that is really dangerous, really direct, really quick. And that, again, worries me. You know, you sell McTominay, you don't find a goal-scoring midfielder to replace him with. We sold our goals away, then we sold them. Basically, if we actually... Let me actually have a look at this. So, McTominay stats. How many goals did we lose from selling people? So, McTominay for Manchester United last season got 10 goals. Yeah? So, McTominay got 10 goals for us last season. Marcus Rashford last season, I know, and he was shocking last season. I think he got 10 goals as well. Let me have a look. Marcus Rashford last season got 8 goals. So that's 18 goals. We threw away 18 goals and we didn't replace them. Because we didn't replace Sancho, Rashford, Anthony, and McTominay. Not that Anthony and Sancho really scored goals. But we basically lost 20 because we didn't bring in any attacker. You've got to remember this. So we lost 21 goals. Through Anthony, Sancho, Rashford, and McTominay, we lost 21 goals. Yeah? And we didn't replace any of them. We didn't replace any of them. And we lost 21 goals with that. If we look at Manchester United, if we look at the Premier League table, let's see how many goals we scored this season compared to last season. So this season, Manchester United have scored 42 goals this season. How many goals did we score last season? We scored 58 goals. So 16 goals. So we've lost, when you actually look at the Premier League stats, Marcus Rashford got 7 goals, McTominay got 7 goals, Anthony got 1. We lost 15 goals in the Premier League through selling those players and not replacing them. Sancho, Anthony, Rashford, McTominay got, 15, 16 Premier League goals? We have 16 less Premier League goals than last season. Because we saw, maybe they weren't good and maybe they needed to go. And I'm not saying that it was wrong to get rid of Sancho, Anthony, Rashford, or McTominay. It wasn't wrong. They had to go for previous reasons. But you didn't replace any of them. Because Agati isn't a McTominay replacement. Agati is the 6 that we needed for legs that we should have got the season before. Agati is the player we should have got in the summer when we got Mount. Ugarte is not the McTominay replacement. Remember that. So we lost 16 goals this season. This season without placing them by selling McTominay and loaning out Sancho, Rashford, Anthony. And we have 16 less goals in the Premier League this season. So I think it's clearly affected us. And I don't know if that makes sense, but there's 16 less goals there. And that's where the goals are gone. So I get, when there's reports coming out that Manchester United believe that 3 new attackers could lift the squad up levels. I think if those 3 new attackers can get 25 goals, well, 25 goals could put us back in the top 8 and take top 8 over where we've been. But you've got to replace them well. Because even if you don't like Garnacho, there's 21 goal contributions there. People don't like Garnacho, but there's 21 goal contributions there. You've got to remember that. Get rid of all the entitled players. We need to go for Gyökeres, people are saying. I don't think it matters who we bring in. These owners are poison. The club is poison. We bring players in, they go bad. Xerxes was brought in to replace goals, but he hasn't. Xerxes came in because of Weghorst and all of that, and Martial. Xerxes was the Martial, Weghorst, we need a striker replacement. Xerxes came in for Martial, okay, who didn't bring any goals, by the way, because he was injured. But I'm talking about Xerxes for Martial, it's different. I'm talking about who came in for Sancho, no one. Who came in for Rashford, no one. Who came in for Anthony, no one. Who came in for McTominay, no one. Xerxes came in for Martial, we know that. Who came in for Rashford, no one. Who came in for Anthony, no one. Xerxes hasn't had a lot of goals, but Xerxes grew. And actually, I've been quite happy with Xerxes the second half of the season before he got injured. The players I named, we didn't bring anyone in for. And we got 16 less goals in the Premier League. And they got 16 goals between them in the Premier League last season. And Mbeumo, 18 goals, Cherki, 20 assists. Yeah. I mean, I look at it and I go, you need Mbeumo. You need Mbeumo and you need Cunha. You need them as the 10s and you need a good striker. Lack of replacing gone on for years, never properly replaced most of the world-class quality we had. And this is what I mean. People want Rashford gone, people want Garnacho gone, and that's fine. But if we go and replace them with shite and they go do well elsewhere, we'll just be complaining about it again. Like we always do. And the problem is, it's just nasty. The players are just nasty, and the squad and the environment is just nasty. Because I don't know if you remember this leak I spoke about the other day. Or let me just get into this super chat. Thank you very much for the super chat. Hello. Just wanted to ask if you think Spurs could build on this and be a proper club, looking at their facilities, stadium, etc. It looks like a matter of time before they could explode big time. Spurs, it's about how they invest money this summer. Spurs have a young team. Vuskovic is coming in as well. You've got Bergvall, who's an excellent player. Archie Gray backs a potential. Vuskovic coming in. Tottenham need an experienced number 6. Tottenham need a ready-made winger. Tottenham need someone that's going to be back up to Solanke because Richarlison's injury prone. And Tottenham need another top centre-back who's got experience and leadership. That's what you need, and maybe you can. Thank you for the super chat, though. But yeah, I think it's getting toxic inside Man United. The players are getting nasty. Because here we go again. We lose the Europa League final and we get these stories coming out. A number of Manchester United players feel that Ruben Amorim is too overconfident in his approach. They cannot understand why he puts too much faith in a playing system that's not suited to the squad he inherited. Which I to an extent, I agree with. I think he should have adapted in that final. And I think had he adapted and had he done this and done that, maybe we get a different result. And he didn't adapt in the final and he's not adapted. And I get why he's not going to completely adapt because he wants to know who can play his way and who can't, and so he knows what to do in the window. But there was a stubbornness there. But what I don't like is the minute we lose, Garnacho's going on a rant about the manager. And I understand Garnacho's frustration, but you're not Bruno Fernandes. You're Alejandro Garnacho. And I understand Garnacho's frustration. I actually agree with what he's saying, but you don't say that publicly. The manager only gave me 20 minutes. You know? The players are coming out slating the manager and his approach. I don't like that. It's the environment at United's getting nasty. And we need a reset of environment. It's not just bringing players in. The environment brings good players in and makes them bad. And players that we think are bad leave Manchester United and they become good because they're profiled correctly, because they're in a nice environment. That is something that we need to fix. The environment. We need to bring in forwards. The Muppeteers spoke about United wanting to sign 3 forwards and 2 being a 10 and 1 being a striker. United Muppeteers spoke about in their YouTube video that they think too many players are complacent and settle with being crap and lack hunger, and Man United want to get rid of that. And that's what I want to see in the summer. I want to see the players that lack hunger, the players that think they've made it, out of this effing club. And honestly, players coming in with hunger, with personality, giving everything. Because I tell you this now, there's only about 3 players I thought cared about this club. Thank you very much for becoming a member, D. Ricky, as well. Big up to you. I think Xerxes, he cared. Xerxes' reaction to losing the final, he was distraught. Garnacho, whether you like him or not, he did care. He was distraught. Euro was distraught. Dorgu was distraught. I felt like a lot of the other players didn't care. I felt like Xerxes really cares. I feel like Euro really cares. I feel like Dorgu really cares. I don't feel like a lot of the players really care. I don't think Eriksen gives an F about this club. I don't think Lindelof gives an F. I don't think Luke Shaw gives an F. I think Anana's just thinking about his wage packet for next season. You know? I think there's a lot of players that don't really care. I think Højlund's zoned out. You know? There's a lot of players. I just feel like, do they care? Do they? Ahmad cares. Ahmad cares, yes. But I just feel there's a few players that don't care. And I don't like this. As Alex said, this isn't a situation for youth to thrive in either. As Ram pointed out, young players are thrown into here with a bad situation. Young players get thrown into Madrid with top-class experienced players around them, a good, stable, winning environment, and they learn from them, and then they get moulded in. Young players at Man United, whether you like Garnacho or not, he's been thrown under the bus. We rely on Garnacho, and when he misses a big chance, we take it all out on him because he's the only player in the squad that can get in a position to get a big chance because Højlund can't move. You know, and we didn't have Ahmad and we didn't have Xerxes, we had nobody in attack. So we have this over-reliance on Garnacho to come up with something. He misses, we get frustrated at him, we drop him for the final when he's our most dangerous player. You know, there is an over-reliance on it. You know, Lenny Yoro has been fantastic this season. Lenny Yoro has been unbelievable this season. Lenny Yoro has been the best thing about the season. Lenny Yoro is a fantastic player. Lenny Yoro could go to Madrid, but I'm worried that this time next year, we're going to have different thoughts on Lenny Yoro because we've ruined him. We've ruined him. I think Lenny Yoro is the aluminium hour centre-backs. And I think if he wasn't at Manchester United and he's at Real Madrid, he would get that credit. But I worry about him. You know? I worry. Look, Romana said we're going to be very busy this summer. And we need to be very busy this summer. We need to be very busy this summer. But we need to change this culture because we've got young players. And if we have a bad culture, it's not going to work. The culture is toxic. You know? We've got Maino, we've got Garnacho, we've got Euro, we've got 3 of the best youngsters in football. But we're not going to get the best out of them with this current core and with this culture. We're just going to create more toxicity. We need experienced, ready-made culture that's going to be good for the club. And I think that Garnacho's gone. And I think that Maino could go as well. You know, Romana said this. There are very concrete chances Alejandro Garnacho will leave Manchester United this summer. Garnacho is likely to leave Manchester United. Garnacho's agents will now hold talks with the club to discuss his exit. So there's an increasing possibility that Garnacho is going to go. It looks like he's gone. It looks like he's done. I don't think Garnacho is even going to be in the squad on Sunday. I think Garnacho is going to be dropped from the squad tomorrow. I think Amrin would have lost it with those comments. I don't even expect to see Garnacho in the squad tomorrow, if I'm being totally honest. I think he's done. I don't think we'll see Garnacho play for us again. I don't think we'll see Rashford play for us again. I think Bruno's last game could be tomorrow. And, you know, this is our worst era, but we're still going to be losing some of our best players. Luke Shaw might be here next year. You know, Luke Shaw could be here next year, but Bruno might not be. Oh my Wi-Fi just went. My Wi-Fi just went. So I was ranting and my Wi-Fi just went. So I apologise, but we are back. But what I was saying was, Man United have every right to sell Garnacho and Rashford because of what's gone down with the relationship with Amrin, yeah? But what I'm saying is, whether you like them or not, Rashford and Garnacho and Bruno are better than a lot of the players in this squad. They are better than Højlund. They are better than Luke Shaw. And we might be in a position, again, where we're selling the better players in our squad. And I'm not saying it's wrong to sell them, but then if we don't replace them properly, and the crap ones will stay. The Luke Shaws will stay. You know, Luke Shaw has been here far too long. Mason Mount, Luke Shaw, Rasmus Højlund, Andre Onana, stay, because we can't sell them. But Garnacho will go, Rashford will go, Bruno will go. Does that fill you with confidence? No. Because, look, I'm not saying it's wrong to sell Garnacho or Rashford, but what I'm saying is Mason Mount's going to stay, but Garnacho and Rashford that play in that position will go. Let's be honest, whether you like Rashford or whether you like Garnacho or whether you like Mason Mount, I think 99% of us would start Garnacho or Rashford over Mason Mount. I think 99% of us would, because of the electricity. Yeah? I think 99% of us would start Garnacho, Rashford over Mason Mount. Rasmus Højlund, he could stay. Luke Shaw could stay. Andre Onana could stay. But Bruno could go. Rashford could go. Garnacho could go. That's what I don't like. I feel like we get rid of our better players. I don't like that. Deal is a deal. Commented as a Spurs fan, and wouldn't preserve if you backed him, even in wouldn't persevere, and you backed him even in reply. Don't know if you recall, but hats off, you've got a fan. Appreciate that. But I think Tottenham, depending on the summer, could have a better season next year. I think winning the Europa League is massive for Tottenham because it gives them money and it gives them pull in the transfer window to do the job that needs to be done to push on next season. And whether that's with Ange or not, we'll have to wait and see. The Ange, talking about his third season, suggests he could stay. Hi Alice, sorry about my last super chat, Toon. I don't know what your last super chat was, but thanks. I honestly have no idea. Someone said this fan base should not cry when babies like Garnacho goes, just like McTominay and Anthony, Alanga, David Gea. Well, look, Alanga walks into this lineup. Like, the thing is, you look at everyone that's left Man United, Alanga looks... Alanga was one of those you just need to be patient with. McTominay walks into the starting lineup. Alanga walks into the starting lineup. I mean, Anthony, with the way he's playing, and he was atrocious. Like, Anthony was next level atrocious. You know, whereas McTominay and Alanga was more, oh, do they suit Ten Hag's system? Maybe not. Maybe we need the money for them. They're homegrown. But, like, I just feel like we sell Alanga, everyone's happy. We sell McTominay, everyone's happy. And then they go elsewhere and they're like, oh, they're all right, actually. Oh, they're better than that person and they're better than that person. You know what I mean? Because you can't tell me that Sancho and Anthony are better than Alanga. I mean, you can say Anthony with his loan, maybe now. But Sancho's not better than Alanga. You know? And then people will bring in this player and we'll sell Garnacho, and then we could be here next year and Garnacho's had a really good year at Napoli or somewhere, and we'll be saying, well, we brought this guy in for 70 million and sold Garnacho for 50 million and he's worse than Garnacho. That's the problem. You know, we've got to get recruitment right. Alanga will be a very good wing back in the system. Alanga would suit the system. McTominay would suit the system. That's the mad thing. If you'd have known Ruben Amorim was coming in 2 years ago, you don't sell them. You know, that's the thing as well. Anthony deserves another chance this year, still a young player. I disagree. I think the physicality of the league is where he'll struggle. And I think Ruben Amorim wants more physical players to come in. So I disagree. But I think he'll have a good career. But I think it's time for United to cash in off the back of a good loan. Everyone looks better after leaving the club as of late. I expect Ten Hag may look like his Ajax stays in the Bundesliga. I bet Ten Hag's going to be fantastic. I bet you Ten Hag's going to be fantastic. Because what was wrong with Ten Hag was the recruitment. And that was Ten Hag's fault, the Mason Mount. But had we had proper people in recruitment, we wouldn't have spent 72 million on Højlund, we wouldn't have spent 50 million on Onana, and we wouldn't have spent 55 million on Mason Mount. If we had proper people in recruitment, we would have gone for a more defensive mind in the field of the Mason Mount. We would have gone and brought in another striker and not spent 72 million on Højlund. We would have looked at alternatives. We would have looked at other goalkeepers. We wouldn't have spent money on this, and this. So I think Ten Hag could have worked if we actually had clever people. But the problem was we kept getting Ten Hag what he wanted, and these were technical players, Eredivisie players that played under him before. But the physicality in the Premier League is a different level. We were unbeaten in the Europa League until we faced Tottenham. We were unbeaten in the Europa League until we faced Tottenham because all the teams we played in the Europa League didn't outmatch us physically because they weren't Premier League teams. The minute we played Tottenham, the reason we lost to Tottenham is because they outmatched us physically. They outmatched us physically. They won the ball in midfield. They forced us into a mistake. They got a jammy goal when they parked the bus, but they outdid us physically, and that's why we've lost them 4 times this season. Erik ten Hag went for technicality. He ignored the importance of physicality in the Premier League, and that cost him. And that cost the recruitment side. I will tell you this now. Big reason behind it. We have no attack. These men cannot score. We ain't winning anything without goals. Doesn't matter what manager's here. I agree. Cunha, Gyökeres, and Buemo. Never going to happen. Never going to get all 3. But get me Cunha and Buemo and a striker. Get me Cunha and Buemo and Jonathan David. Get me Cunha and Buemo and Gyökeres. That's what I want. That's the way we fix United. I'm worried about Amorim. But I also know the players are the bigger problem. We've got to back Amorim this summer. We're going to get him 3 attackers. We're going to get him an athletic midfielder that can progress the ball. We're going to get him another wing back, and we're going to get him a good goalkeeper. And those 6 signings could be enough to push us on next season. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up today's show here. Thank you everyone for tuning in today's show. I will be back about 5, 6 o'clock as well with another show with more news. Could be a video if there's any breaking news. Thank you for watching. Bye.